In today's episode, I want to gently speak to you about discernment. And this is coming from a place of observation and also my own experiences. When it comes to getting into a romantic relationship or having friendships, there is a pressure from culture, either from social media or even church sermons, or generally, society expects you to have friendships, right? Society expects you to be in a romantic relationship at certain ages. And when you are not having all of that, intimate relationship, friendships, you feel like you're under pressure to, belong. And when you come under pressure, you become vulnerable. Welcome to Emotional Healing for Christian Women, the podcast where faith meets inner healing. Imagine waking up without the weight of shame, guilt, fear, and loneliness. Imagine finally feeling worthy, confident, and at peace. And doing this with God by your side. That's the healing we can begin together. I'm Marvel Adeyemi, a psychotherapist and a faith-led women's coach. Let's get started. Now listen very clearly to me. If you are a young lady who has relocated overseas to study, or you've relocated with your family to, seek greener pastures, when you get to your new destination, you will feel the pressure to want to quickly belong to a community, either belong to a church, form friendships, just build friendships and relationships very quickly. When you are under that kind of pressure, you are vulnerable. And vulnerability without discernment is dangerous. Now, my heart goes out to a lot of young women who want to just go out and date. Listen to me, dating is not harmless. A lot of people have befriended people who use witchcraft, spells, charms, manipulation, and controlling them. And that is why I want to talk about how to spot spiritual manipulations in relationships. This is so important. Sometimes as women, we might find that we are connecting with a different kind of personality in a woman. If you have a softer personality, you might be finding that you are admiring and respecting another woman who is probably of a stronger personality. She is doing so many things at the same time. She's building a house. She's running a business. She has an employment. She's equally raising her children. The kids are in very wonderful schools. And, she's got so many things going on for her, which you admire, but you are not there. One of the things to keep in mind sometimes is to ask yourself, at what cost are these women running that lifestyle? Surely there is a price. And you want to ask yourself if you want to pay that kind of price. And let me also say, if you've relocated overseas, so you've left your friends, your families, your childhood friend, your support structure, maybe church, pastors, people you grew up together in the faith or as children, and you're now overseas, don't be in haste to make friends. I want to give you two strong principles to live by. I have found them to be very helpful. I've also made my own mistakes, and I'm hoping you learn and don't make the same mistake. All right, so keep in mind that when we are seeking the face of God for relationships and friendships, and we are opening ourselves up to God's will, God will send people into our lives. At the same time, the devil will send people into your life. And I want you to understand that friendship isn't always innocent, right? Dating isn't always automatically safe. Yes. And when you are longing for love and connection and community, especially when you've experienced neglect, disappointment, rejection, or you just have your emotional wounds, you are more vulnerable than you realize. Okay? It doesn't make you weak. I want you to be aware. This whole episode is to help create awareness for you. Okay? The first principle I want to talk about is that you need to always compare charisma versus character. So listen, someone can be so charismatic. They may have prophetic gifts. They may have insights. They can even tell you some of your life situation with so much precision, right? So they are demonstrating a lot of prophetic gifts. And the person might be so prayerful, they can speak very accurately, and seem spiritually deep. All right? Now, don't fall for that trap yet, okay? They might be genuine, they might not be. And you need time to test people's character, to observe people's character. You are looking out for consistency and for patterns in people's personality. You can easily fall for the gift, their achievement, their ability, because what happens is that gifting speaks about ability. But character is where you will feel safe. Is this person kind? Is this person respectful? Is this person politeful? But if they are boastful and they kind of always want to check in on you, and if you don't reply, you're going to be feeling guilty, and there's always this incessant check-ins on you unasked, so that puts some kind of pressure on you, and then you're feeling suffocated, and then you're feeling kind of micromanaged. You want to check on that relationship for a moment, okay? Just because somebody looks spiritual and maybe you met in church does not necessarily mean that is a safe relationship for you. I just want you to know that the devil has many agents, even in churches. Yeah. So these are the days that you need discernment, because even the very elect can be deceived, right? I can be deceived. You can be deceived, except if God gives us mercy. And like what I'm describing and discussing with you in today's episode that helps to create awareness for you is one way that you are able to become aware, informed, and go like, I think I'm recognizing this pattern. So I do have what I call the 6 months rule. When you're meeting a potential spouse or a potential friend, I want you to tell yourself you need at least 6 months to observe the person, the character of this person, okay? Beyond the ability, beyond the qualifications, beyond the skill, beyond the charisma, you want to look at the character. Another word for that is the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, kindness, patience, long-suffering. All right? All the fruits of the Spirit is what you want to look at. So that is whether it's a friend or it's a potential spouse. That relationship, you need to give it for at least 6 months. This is part of how you spot spiritual manipulations in relationships. All right? And because there might be prophetic demonstrations or attributes in this person, should not stop that 6-month cycle for you. Okay? I'll give you an example. If the person, for example, suddenly interprets your dream for you or kind of give you some kind of insight into your situation spiritually, acknowledge it inwardly. All right? Stay quiet outwardly. Don't announce it, and don't attach meaning to it very quickly. Okay? Listen, I used to have a mentor in business because I attended a business school when some kind of 6-7 years ago here in Australia. And in that program, we are assigned to a mentor who is in the line of the business that we're looking to do. At the time, I was trying to establish my private practice here in Australia, and I hadn't done my master's in social works at the time. So I was paired with this mentor who had a very big clinic, and her niche was into fertility. And one day she invited me into the clinic and introduced me to a woman and said, "Oh, Mav is actually a Christian as well." And I went in and I sat down with this woman. And as soon as I sat down, she looked at me and said, "Oh, your spleen looks clean." And whilst I'm still trying to figure out what does she mean by spleen looks clean, she looks at me and said, "Oh, your feet is in the right direction." I said, "Hang on a minute. What's your role in this clinic?" And she looks at me and smiles. If I'm to assess her age, she will be around 60 years old or something. And she couldn't tell me definitely what her role is, what her qualification is, and things like that. And I got inquisitive. And the next thing she went on, oh, your feet are in the right direction. You currently live in a house. That house is not good for you. Move away from that house, all right? Leave. And I was looking at her like, hmm. Immediately I could discern that's a demon speaking. And that she's using some prophetic gift, as it were, that is able to help her see precisely what my situation is. But I looked at her and I said, listen, I don't do this stuff. So not too long, that meeting ended. And as I walked out of that clinic and I looked at the reception, I saw pictures of babies that were like testimonies to the, clinical skills that were used to help women who experienced infertility and finally they had babies. And I thought to myself, how many vulnerable women have gone through this kind of situations and have found themselves with people that are using, different medium to access spiritually their life, telling them their life story with so much precision. And I just remembered how my mentor introduced me to her. Oh, Mav is also a Christian, making it sound like we're both Christians and we're both serving the same God. Of course, we're not serving the same God. And in fact, because she said to me, move away from that house, and honestly speaking, we were already looking to move from that house. But when I got home, I told my husband, I saw a strange woman today who told me all my stories with precision. And I said, but you know what? We're not going to move anyway, because I'm not going to be taking instructions from a witch. We're going to lean on the Holy Spirit. He will direct us when it's time to leave this house, and He will make a provision. And we prayed about it. And in due time, God led us to a wonderful house, and we moved from that place. So sometimes you can be so carried away with the charismatic gifts of people that you forget to check in on the character, the patterns that gives you that safety. Time reveals patterns, all right? When you're feeling like there's pressure is a red flag. You need to check it immediately. And this is what pressure can look like. You'll be feeling monitored. You'll be feeling like you have to share a lot of your stories, or they intentionally tell you a lot about themselves. So you feel vulnerable to share, again, your own side of your story. Be cautious. Just because someone is telling you so much about themselves does not mean you have to share your own story as well. Remember the 6 months rule? Yeah, we're following that. Even in romantic relationships. Romantic relationships do have stages, and I have a whole course concerning that, where if you don't follow the stages accordingly, you're going to jump stages and think that you're bonding. What you're actually doing is you're gluing, and you hurt eventually. All right, so secure love respects your space. Divine alignment, often there's no need for the force. So if you're feeling pressure in a relationship, detach gently, breathe, and slow down. Thank you. The next thing I want to discuss with you is if you are desperate for anything, you are not ready for it yet. If you're desperate for anything, including romantic relationships or friendships, you are not ready for it yet. Desperation will cloud your discernment, all right? You need to go into rest. Rest sharpens your discernment, all right? We cannot but live with discernment in this end time, okay? So one of the ways to go into rest is to live a surrendered life, where you say, God, I give you my timeline. I surrender my life to you. I want to be in the center of your will. Not my will, but yours be done, all right? And when you live that surrendered life, you go into rest. I'm not asking you to give up your desire for friendship or your desire for marriage. I'm only asking you to give up the urgency around it. Prayer of surrender is not optional this year for a child of God. We are not doing rushed prayers this year. We're not doing anxious prayers this year. We're not doing any prayer that is not surrendered, because we just want to be in the center of God's will, where you're saying, Lord, your kingdom come, your will be done in my love life, in my employment, in my career, in my friendships, in my future, in everything. So when you are preoccupied with God's purpose for you, God will handle the protection side for you. And when you focus on God's will, your alignment will follow. You would notice when a relationship or friendship is pulling you out of God's will. For example, if you are used to having your quiet time at a particular time, say 5 a.m., and you have your study table, you have where you sit down, you know the kind of music you want to play, you know the speaker you connect your phone to, you will find out that sometimes you might be very worried not to sleep in your own familiar room, your own familiar house, because you have a routine you must follow that helps to ground you. So that happened a lot to me when I was in uni. I used to have a very close friend, and many times she will invite me to come over and stay over with her in her own house, family house. Their house was quite closer to the hostel than my house. And every time I visited, I just felt like my rhythm was disrupted. Fine. And my quiet time was disrupted. I can't rearrange things the way that I want them to be rearranged. By the way, when we were studying, two and a half decades ago, there was no internet and there was no phones at that time. I have to find out that I have to find a way to have my quiet time. And sometimes if I sleep 2-3 nights away from my own house, by the time I get back to my own space, I have to build my prayer life all over again because I have been away from my familiar area for a while. So pay attention, actually. And this is not the time to actually say you want to go and move in with a guy you have not checked out his pattern. All right? Familiar spirits are real. If you find out that you are dating and attracting the same kind of men, that is actually a familiar spirit. They just have different faces, similar pattern. Or you find out that there's just this particular personalities of women that you find or admire as friendships. You have a soft personality, but they have a strong personality. And in the end, you feel used, you feel disrespected and abandoned. It's time to check in, to unlearn your type. You stop dating your type. Learn to unlearn your type. And this is why journaling is so helpful, because then it helps to increase your self-awareness and you're able to identify the pattern and traits of this kind of personalities and friends and begin to go like, Someone can be speaking in tongues and be very spiritual and strong, but maybe very, very low on empathy. They don't care whether you're hurting. They don't care how their language, when they're saying stuff, they're controlling and they micromanage. That is actually a form of control and manipulation. And that, in my own opinion, is a form of witchcraft. God doesn't put you in that kind of control. So a healthy, safe relationship gives you space to be yourself, not trying to change you into becoming one of them. Right? A healthy, safe relationship admires the way that you are. In fact, finds your qualities admirable, but leaves you the way. Now, I do not mean like leaves you with an area you know you need to work on. That's not what I'm talking about. But not trying to change you, especially when you are also not trying to change people. And when the relationship is going at a very high speed, that is a red flag as well. All right, as I round off, so I talked to you about when you're desperate for anything, you're not ready for it. Secondly, always apply the at least 6 months rule to every relationship you have. Maintain your routine, maintain the things you do for yourself, make sure you have space enough to breathe, and take things slow. If there is pressure, that is a red flag. Pressure comes from hell. I repeat, pressure comes from hell. Pressure doesn't come from God. Peace comes from God. And please don't fall for what society, culture tells you, that if you don't have friends, if you're not married at a particular time or you're not dating at a particular age, something is really wrong with you. No, that's not true. Ultimately, what you want to do is to be in the center of God's will. And you cannot be discerning if your prayer life is not strong, your word life is not strong, you're not continuously paying attention to the word of God. And whilst you are there, Trust me, God will send you the right people. God will send you the right husband. God will send you the right friends. There may not be many. There may just be one or two, but they'll be rock solid. And there'll be those kind of people that will encourage you to stay in the presence of God, to prioritize your prayer life, your spiritual life, and not to distract you from it or start teaching you some new age strange practices, which is not what you're looking to get. All right. Now, my book, Beyond the Hurt, is for women or men who have been emotionally hurt and are healing emotionally, and they are learning how to love from a place of wholeness and a place of confidence. You'll find a link in my description. Yes, I'm a licensed psychotherapist. If you're watching this episode from YouTube, please subscribe. Thank you for your time. And if you're listening in the podcast, please follow, share this episode to every Christian woman that you love and you know who needs discernment right now. All right. Your support is what keeps me going. And if you've not watched my favorite episode recently, Silent Moves, Lessons from Matthew chapter 2. I encourage you to watch that or listen to that. Until the next episode, stay beautiful, stay confident, and stay prayed up. Bye for now. Thank you for spending time with me today on Emotional Healing for Christian Women. If this episode blessed you, please leave a review and share it with a friend who needs encouragement. And don't forget to download my new book, Beyond the Hurt, from my website, marvelademi.com.au, and other free resources. Until next time, stay healed, stay beautiful, and stay confident.